Israel attacks Iran's nuclear and missile sites, killing Tehran's top military officials.
Dozens of international activists that had arrived in Egypt to participate in the global march to Rafah were deported. More than 100 others are also awaiting removal. Jailed Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu has boycotted a case hearing claiming the venue was changed unlawfully at the last minute.
Ukraine and Russia continued a prisoner of war swap this Thursday, focusing on those who are severely wounded.
Israel attacked Iran's capital, Tehran, early Friday in strikes that targeted the country's nuclear program, killing top military officials and nuclear scientists. The attack is the most significant Iran has faced since its 1980s war with Iraq and comes amid rising tensions over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program. Multiple sites around the country were hit, including Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility, where black smoke could be seen rising into the air. The leader of Iran's paramilitary revolutionary guard, General Hossein Salami, and the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces, General Mohammad Bagheri, were confirmed dead, as reported by Iranian state television. At least 6 nuclear scientists were also killed. In response, Iran launched hundreds of drones towards Israeli territory. Meanwhile, Israeli leaders have cast their preemptive assault as a fight for the nation's survival that was necessary to head off an imminent threat that Iran would build nuclear bombs, though it remains unclear how close Tehran is to achieving this. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in separate addresses, said the attacks were part of an ongoing operation against Iran. Some 200 Israeli aircraft took part in the operation, hitting about 100 targets.
Dozens of international activists that had arrived in Egypt were deported from the country on Thursday. Scores of people have been pouring into the North African nation to participate in a march to the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza. Footage showed a convoy of Dutch activists being surrounded by Egyptian security forces in Cairo airport. At least 73 people were deported, and a further 100 are detained and awaiting removal from the country. The Global March to Gaza is a 3-day coordinated international activism initiative which looks to break Israel's blockade on the enclave. Participants are set to march from El Arish in the Sinai Peninsula, where they will then begin their approximately 50-kilometer trek to Rafah. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu and his legal team have boycotted a court hearing on Thursday. The decision to boycott came after what İmamoğlu said was an unlawful change in venue at the last minute. The hearing was originally scheduled to take place in Çağlayan Courthouse in central Istanbul, but was moved to a court in Silivri prison where the jailed mayor is being held. The case, which is one of many İmamoğlu is facing, was over comments he made on an expert witness over the prosecution of other officials from his Republican People's Party. Prosecutors have requested a 2 to 4 year prison sentence. The hearing was adjourned to late September. İmamoğlu was arrested on the 19th of March alongside other prominent Turkish politicians as part of an investigation into alleged corruption and links to terror organizations. His arrest triggered weeks of domestic chaos, with nationwide protests, the largest Turkey has seen in over a decade. Hundreds of protesters were arrested in the demonstrations, which often turned violent. İmamoğlu is widely seen as the main political challenger to Erdogan's 22-year rule, with many viewing his arrest as politically motivated. If convicted in any of the cases, İmamoğlu could be banned from holding or running for public office, effectively removing him from the 2028 presidential elections.
Ukraine and Russia continued the exchange of prisoners of war on Thursday, based on the Istanbul of the 2nd of June. Kiev has not revealed how many Ukrainian defenders have been exchanged, only that the swap focused on severely wounded soldiers. Some of those brought home to Ukraine were the defenders of Mariupol, like Maxim, who was released 3 years ago and almost lost his life in prison.
І прив'язували мене до панцирної кроваті, як в фільмі про Рембо його прив'язували і підсоєдняли мене до електричества 220 вольт. Цей хлопець, який висів отак от прив'язаний за руки, вони його тим дерев'яним молотком лупили, а я висів вниз ногами і на все це дивився, втрачав свідомість.
According to a UN investigation, Russian authorities have enforced torture against captured Ukrainian soldiers to extract information, coerce and intimidate them. Maxim still goes to therapy and has suffered permanent brain damage. He says he knows of 3 men from his unit who died in prison as a result of torture.
An institutional ceremony was held at Spain's Royal Palace in Madrid to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the signing of the EU accession treaty. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez says the decision to join the EU was one of tremendous success for a nation once weak and fragile.
En estas 4 décadas, España ha pasado de ser una democracia joven y frágil a una democracia plena. Con carencias, sin duda alguna, como todas, con problemas aún pendientes, por supuesto, pero hemos podido comprobar que hemos ido avanzando con mucha determinación a lo largo de estos últimos 40 años.
Top EU representatives were also invited to celebrate the occasion, including Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Council President Antonio Costa, and Parliament President Roberta Metsola. But ultimately, only Costa attended the ceremony, where he spoke of what Spain's accession meant for the country.
Es preservar la memoria de un acto que certificó el rumbo europeo de la democracia española, dejando atrás una larga dictadura y escribiendo junto con Portugal el capítulo más brillante de su historia reciente, abrazando con convicción y entusiasmo la Europa democrática.
Spain's monarch, King Philip VI, urged lawmakers to not allow political division to affect the country's growth.
No permitamos, pues, que sean ahora las divisiones y los conflictos los que debiliten precisamente aquello que nació para superarlos y que ha sido la mayor garantía de paz, libertad y prosperidad de nuestra historia. Porque sigue siendo, hoy más que nunca, una necesidad para todos.
Spain and Portugal signed the accession treaty on the 12th of June 1985. The Iberian nations became full members of what was formerly called the European Communities on the 1st of January 1986.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has asked the public for forgiveness after Santos Cerdán, one of the Socialist Party's top functionaries, was implicated in an alleged corruption scandal.
El Partido Socialista y yo como secretario general del Partido Socialista no debimos confiar en él.
A police report leaked to the media on Wednesday identified Cerdán as responsible for handling illegal commission payments linked to public contracts. He resigned from his position as party secretary and from his seat in Parliament on Thursday, but says that he will be defending his innocence. Sanchez said that he would order an external audit of the Socialist Party's accounts, but has refused to call early elections.
Will health pay the price in the next EU long-term budget? With growing demands in areas like defence, concerns are mounting over whether health will be pushed aside. The European Commission is set to unveil its proposal for the next 7-year EU budget in July, but early rumours suggest that dedicated health funding could be merged with other programmes, or worse, eliminated entirely. The COVID-19 pandemic prompted a historic shift. For the first time, Member States agreed on a standalone €5.3 billion health fund, known as EU for Health. Now many worry that this may have been a one-off.
If we are not able to protect this, to have a ring-fence budget, a separate health program within the budget, I'm afraid that this will all be diluted, that this will all be absorbed by some big other fund in the budget, and definitely will lose this focus on healthcare that we have now.
Uncertainty is sparking wider concern in the health sector ahead of the Commission's budget proposal.
If we pull back from health investment, we're going to see more delays, we're going to see less access to innovation, we're going to see deterioration of health outcomes, and consequently we're going to see a reduction in productivity, economic output. Health is an investment to be made, not a cost to be managed, and if we do so, we'll improve the health and the wealth of our countries.
EU4Health has already supported key projects, including a 1.3 million initiative tackling Europe's nursing shortage by promoting the profession in countries facing the biggest gaps.
An Air India plane bound for London's Gatwick Airport has crashed during takeoff. The incident happened at India's Ahmedabad airport on Tuesday. 232 passengers and 12 crew members were on board. These included 169 Indian nationals, 53 British nationals, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese, according to the airline. India's federal health minister said that, quote, many people were killed. The injured, meanwhile, are being taken to hospital. Authorities say that the Boeing 787-8 plane crashed in a civilian area near the airport, and that at least 30 to 35 bodies have been recovered from a building at the crash site. Air India said on social media X that it was, quote, ascertaining the details of the crash.